Hello A38's family and welcome back to our channel. Today you're here with Andrew, and right now I'm just north of Dayton in the Taylorsville Metro parks visiting an abandoned transportation hub known as Tadmor. Now Tadmor was constructed in the early 1800s as a transportation outpost with goods going through it with the canal locks just over there, and eventually in 1851 built the Michigan Railway, which is right behind me. Now, tragedy struck in 1913, but I guess you'll have to follow me along and I'll give you a little more insight. So I hope you enjoy. Here's one of the signs that's going to lead us to the abandoned town and historical site. And we got about 1.2 miles on this thing, so you'll probably catch up with me when I get down there. Good example, this town was built on a rail line, which is still active today, as you can hear. And quite frankly, I kind of forgot about it until I heard the train roll through there. Maybe you can see it moving through the trees there. Yeah, you can see the top of it. But it was built through the town of Tadmor, which we're about to see here. I'm about halfway through, but there's the rail line. If I'm being honest, I don't know the difference between a creek and a brook. And here it is. We just followed this trail down, and you can see some of the ruins of the village. Here is a bridge that used to head over this creek that seems to be disbanded at this point. But we're making our way down the trail to see the village. This is the C Bridge, which I'm going to try and get down there and take a look at it, but I'm not going to film my descent because I'll probably fall and break my neck. Here is one part of the bridge. As you can see, I made it down safely. And then you can see it through the trees over there. I think, maybe, is the other side to safely cross. And this must be the river that caused the Great Flood of 1913, which actually destroyed the town here. So we're gonna go see if we can find any more ruins. And for those of you wondering, I forgot to mention that this is the Great Miami River, which is northwest of Dayton, which is where we are right now. But it feels silly to leave that out. I mean, it's a pretty decent sized river in the state of Ohio. And, as I mentioned earlier, very susceptible to flood. I'll use the transformer in that house up on the hill there as a visual guide to show you that, hindsight, this whole area is a floodplain. I mean, it rained a couple days this week, and that river's high now. So if you got an abundance of rain, this whole area was condemned from the get-go. But like I said, the transformer and the house are for the visual aid of how high they built those up in case of another biblical type flood. As you can see up this little river, which I would imagine was wider and deeper in that time, there's old canal locks which brought goods in and out via waterways. That's too cool. Here's a closer view of it, and you can see a dried out riverbed. It's 107 years old. It's seen better days, but cool nonetheless. I always like to note when we have some furry friends around. These are relatively fresh. I couldn't have missed them by more than an hour or so. Thank you, Mr. Sign. Now we're going to go over to the bridge that we saw earlier. Now, if you do look this place up to go visit, I've seen it spelled 3 ways. Tadmore, Tadmor, and Tadmor. So keep that in mind. Oh, that's too cool. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're researching it, of how to get to it and where it's located. There's 3 different spellings that I've found. Wonder if I can hop down here. Give me 1 second. Indeed I can. And a dried out riverbed. There's number 2 of the day. There's the bridge that we came up across earlier. And then more canal systems. Sorry for the bump. We are actually now standing in a river. "107 years old. Too freaking cool. If you know anything about the channel, you'd realize that living history to me is second to none. If you can go visit places that are, you know, generations older than you, and will be there generations after you, as long as the Metro Parks keeps this area up and running. It's just so cool. You've stepped in places that so many people before us have stepped and worked and had their way of life. I would imagine this place being built in the 1850s, the settlement was established in that time, that the way of life was a little different. A little more demanding, I bet. Just too freaking cool. Here's another sign. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but Sluice Gate, maybe? But you get an overview of the area. I'm assuming at some point there was a gate to get down to one of the canal locks or something, probably for the laborers. Now this is something I did not expect. I thought this was a little place tucked away in a park, but apparently the state of Ohio was gracious enough to deem this with a beautiful brown and gold sign. Pause it if you'd like to read it. On the other side, we get a 2-for-1 deal. Pause that if you'd like to read it. So apparently the train depot was here, and my apologies, I got my dates mixed up. The railway up there was built in 1851, the Michigan Railway. And this was as early accessible as 1809, a very important destination with transportation going up and down here via rivers and other things. Apparently a road means it was the first federally funded road in Ohio. And we got another sign right there and another one to my right. But this just seems to go on and on. This is the first national road right here. And then up there, apparently there used to be a house. They weren't too in detail with that one. And apparently right here was a covered bridge at some point. But going on to the last sign we saw, or I guess the 2 before, we were actually walking on the first federally funded road in Ohio. This is what guides you through Tadmor. So big transportation outpost with the river and the first federally funded road. Just think of how many feet have walked on this. Ohio has the first federal